Sigourney Weaver's talking about The Mandalorian and Grogu. Can Ripley save Star Wars? We're going to talk about that and much more in today's episode. Here we go. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the big thing for now. It's me, Kristian Harloff. Thanks for joining us on the show. It is myself and the one and only Steph Sabra. Hello, Steph.
Hi, I missed ya.
I know. We haven't you haven't done the show in a sec, so you're back.
Yeah.
You're back.
Yes,
We're
I'm back.
We're gonna have a lot to talk about soon because you're gonna have the skeleton crew is like right around the corner.
Right.
And we're very curious how that's gonna all pan out. You and I haven't really discussed the Acolyte cancellation. We've kind of talked about it quite a bit on the channel, but we haven't really discussed it, although I did see it, one of my shorts pop up in my feed, and it was me asking you point blank, do you think it's going to get a second season, to which you fastly said no, and you were correct. So, you see, but what I will ask you is this. I'm sure you've seen in the social media stuff of all the, both the people who have been dancing on graves, and then there's other people who are on the other side of it, just, I think, in denial of why it really was canceled. What are you, and it was indeed, if you listen to Roku's report, the idea that they were planning on going through to second season, and the way that the first season is really gearing up to second season, the story they were telling was canceled. So what do you make out of all the stuff that you're seeing out there?
It's just like more identity politics misused. People don't even know what they're arguing for anymore. It just is. It didn't do well, and it's really about the numbers. Like it's almost in Hollywood never not about the numbers. Even if it got a portion of the population viewed it and was wildly offended by it and thought it was the worst thing ever. If it did massive numbers and continued to do massive numbers, it would have gotten a second season.
It's exactly
So
right.
it just is not. It didn't do what it needed to
It's like
do, and it's
common
not
sense.
personal.
It's common sense. It's like
Yeah.
it's people think, oh well, they've catered to the people who hate. No, what if people were still hating on it, but it was in the top 3 shows every week, they wouldn't give a crap about
Right.
about what people are saying. But I use you as an example, and I said, if you're not hitting Steph on this show, and you are the farthest thing from an angry person
Right.
who's just tweeting this to tweet this, you are their target demographic, and you're like, not for me. Twins suck.
So it sucked.
They weren't good.
They weren't good, and they weren't even twins. So I don't
That's
even
right.
know what to believe in anymore.
That's right. They weren't even twins. They weren't even twins. Anyway, so there is more Star Wars talk, and some of the positive is that there was a report, and I believe it was Jeff Snyder. We'll find out in a second here, but talking about the legend Sigourney Weaver, and she's talking about Mandalorian and Grogu. She actually confirms it. She confirms it that we know that she's actually in it now. And this is a report from comicbookmovie.com. Mark Cassidy, who writes sci-fi icon Sigourney Weaver, has confirmed she is joining the cast of Jon Favreau's The Mandalorian feature, while also weighing in on the possibility of returning to the role of Ellen Ripley. Interesting. Sigourney Weaver is a true legend of the sci-fi genre, having appeared in the likes of Ghostbusters, Avatar, and of course the Alien movies, which she led as the iconic Ellen Ripley in the first 4 films prior to the franchise being revived with Ridley Scott's Prometheus. Weaver also played the villain in Netflix's The Defenders series, but her MCU stint was short-lived when her character was killed off by Elektra. Spoilers. Fans have often wondered if Weaver might take a trip to the galaxy far, far away at some point, and earlier this year, the trades reported she was in talks for a key role in Lucasfilm's The Mandalorian and Grogu. During an interview with Deadline, Weaver confirmed that she has signed on for the movie and is set to be shooting very soon. I'm playing a role in The Mandalorian and Grogu, which is directed by Jon Favreau. I got to meet Grogu for the first time the other day. I'm filming that before I go to London for The Tempest at the end of the year. She didn't share any details on the character, unfortunately, but there are rumors that she could be playing the main villain. The 3-time Academy Award nominee also weighed in on potentially returning as Ripley down the line, and it sounds like she's open to the possibility if the right script comes along. She says, I feel like she's never far from me, but on the other hand, I have yet to read a script that says you've got to do this. So for me, she's in this other dimension, safe from the alien for the time being. I don't really think about it, but it's not completely impossible, and certainly a lot of good filmmakers are inspired by the material. How much does the public really need or want another Ripley? I don't really sit around thinking about it, but if it came up, I'd consider it. It has come up a bunch of times, but I'm also busy doing other things. Ripley has earned her rest. The Mandalorian creator Jon Favreau is set to direct and produce the big screen spin-off with Lucasfilm president Kathleen Kennedy and chief creative officer Dave Filoni serving as producers. Pedro Pascal is returning as Din, but the extent of his involvement, he might only voice the character, is unclear as he is shooting the Fantastic Four. The movie is set to come out May 22nd, 2026. All right, Steph, you hear this. Obviously, who isn't excited that she's going to be in this movie? It adds validity, adds more. Anytime you hear she's in it, you're like, oh, okay, that's especially in a science fiction, sci-fi fantasy movie. If she's in it, you're like, oh, that's great. That really adds to the cast. So, what do you think about the comments, and what role do you think she could potentially play?
I don't know exactly what role I'm sure it will be some meet along the way, and she ends up being like this like action hero of wisdom in some way. I don't think she'll be
Empire
like a
or
force
whatever?
user.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't think she'll be bad either. Empire or whatever it
resistance. Yeah,
yeah. So I think she'll end up being a friend, and I do, even though we're just coming off of Acolyte where we were like shown Carrie Ann Moss, and we're like, "Oh my god, she's gonna be the main character," and then she just so wasn't. I don't think that the same thing would happen with this team, Jon Favreau specifically, bringing on Sigourney Weaver. I think that means it's gonna be a really big role.
there's no world that Jon Favreau wastes Sigourney Weaver.
Right,
There's no world. I mean,
right.
he's a fanboy of this stuff as much as we are. He
Yeah,
knows where it's going to be if you get Sigourney Weaver to do a role. Now, playing her as a villain, I think, is an inspired choice. I think that kind of works. Is you're expecting her to be a good guy. You're expecting her to be Ripley. She's played villains before. She's played bad guys before, so she could certainly pull it off. She's a great actress. Having her in that particular role of where it's going to go, what the overall feel of it is, and what her role could play is interesting. I have been saying this. I do think that Adam, and this might not be for everybody, but I think it's certainly for me and other people. I think that this movie is going to be the closest feeling film to the original trilogy as far as tone and look and all that, because I think that Jon Favreau he's an original trilogy guy, and if you look at the Mandalorian season 1 and 2, those seem the most original trilogy ish, and I think that will happen. And if you have her in it, you do nothing but benefit the film.
yeah. I do think that Favreau seems to be in the similar line of what we're seeing with Marvel right now, which is like this like pause. And even though they announced the movie, it does feel like there's a pause in Star Wars
Yeah, oh,
where
yeah.
they're kind of assessing what they've made in the past few years, and especially with Disney Plus and what they need for the fandom and what they need to make for us. And I think that the movie I have hopes about the movie. I think it's going to be good.
I have hopes for this one,
Yeah.
but as you were just saying, I think Lucasfilm is in mass chaos right now.
Yeah.
I think they're in mass chaos. I think the Acolyte did not help that at all. I don't. I think you got Skeleton Crew where they're just gonna. It's almost like what James Gunn and Peter Safran did with when the Flash and Aquaman and Shazam are coming out. They're like, oh, come on, be good, make some money, because we got to move into the next thing, get and be done with this. I feel like that's what Lucasfilm's got to do now with like Skeleton Crew. They're like, oh, okay, I don't know, we have no plan, we're not sure what's going. I said this on the Monday show, and I'm going to stand by it and say it each and every time. I don't feel right now that Star Wars can move forward with this current regime that's in place at Lucasfilm. I think that in order to really, you got to cut the head off of the snake right now. I think that you've got to change the film and TV regime. I think you got to change it up completely. I think you just got to gut it. and I think you got to really find some new people in there. And Iger's got to bring in a whole new production team to run Lucasfilm in order to get. It's just too tainted right now, and I don't think they have any idea what they're doing. And I think Mandalorian and Grogu is pretty much kind of a detached film. I think that it's Favreau's film. I don't. I think it's,
Mhm.
in this, and that's even though that's going to be a benefit to the film. I think it's part of the detriment to what's happening. It's like they still this director will come in and do this because then another director they still who knows what the next movie is. I don't think they know.
Right. Yeah, what would you like to see out of if they did clean house and kind of restart? Would it be something like DC with Saffron and Gunn and have like two people who are writers and directors and then create the newer universe, or is something different?
The answer to that question is similar to how they found Saffron and Gunn. They I don't think that was their plan. Find two people to do it and do that. Then they met with people and said, "This is the direction we want to go in." Find the right people to do it. Find the right people who understand it overall, who are going to put together a plan. If it's two people and one's a creative and a director or whatever it might be, and is going to direct the first movie in a certain aspect, in a certain way that they're doing it, sure. But if I still think that there's a way, if you look at, and I keep using like Kevin Feige as an example, where people are like, oh, they need like a Kevin Feige, maybe they can get him, and we're not going to get him. That's not going to happen. And I always say the fact is that you didn't know who Kevin Feige was before you knew who Kevin Feige was. He
Mhm.
had to build his reputation. So find a new executive, find a 30 to 50-year-old person to go in there, run it, and let them bring their own team. Not here's the new executive who's working with the same people, and then Filoni's just going to throw his weight around and do all that. You can't do that. You've got to say, okay, we have this IP that we paid 4.1 or 4.2 billion, whatever it is. It ain't working. Who's our new production team? And the new person says, I want my own people. And you bring in, and everybody's got to. And I think that you put, if Filoni's going to stay, you put him on animation, and you take him off of film and TV. You just got to. But that's not. This isn't going to happen. I'm just saying that
Right.
I believe that this is what should happen.
I know it's confusing because I do completely empathize with being in the building, in the past 5 years and seeing what Filoni has done and thinking that Filoni is to Star Wars as Feige is to Marvel, but it isn't the same.
Mm-mm. No, he's got a good look. What
But
he,
everyone, remember, was so
yeah,
excited.
I
They
was
were like,
too.
"Yeah, make him run it."
Yeah,
And then it wasn't the vibe
he
necessarily.
runs the whole thing like animation, and you can't. I mean, you look at some of the scenes in Ahsoka, things that play. We talked about it, things that play in Ahsoka, um, or rather, things that would play if it was animated would have played better in certain scenes in Ahsoka than they did in live action. I keep bringing up like the zombie scene, or when Ezra is getting thrown by a newly discovering Force Sabine. Like that, all that stuff could have played better in animation, but it played off campy and kind of kooky in the live action stuff. He's not a great writer, and I think he holds so true to the George Lucas thing, the good and the bad, that it's the same problems that I think that the prequels ran into. Right? There's a lot of great stuff in the prequels, but there's also Star Wars has the opportunity with how rich it is to be a Game of Thrones type level show. Not that dark and not that, but as critically acclaimed and as invested, it can get there. But not
Yeah.
but not with the team that's running it.
Right. At least Stranger Things.
Yes, yeah. Again, well written show.
Because it can get semi-dark, and it does. Stranger Things does, but I do think it toes the line really well, where if you're a kid, you could watch it and think you're, like, doing something a little naughty watching it because it's
Yes.
just on the line.
Season four is tough. Season four
It's
is
scary.
yeah. Season
Yeah, it
four, yeah,
is scary, but I would say, like, a 13,
yeah, yeah. My
14-year-old.
12-year-old watches it. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But yes, but you're right. And it's like now look, are they going to go that adult with Star Wars because it is still bread and butter type stuff? Look, I just read a story yesterday that I thought was so stupid, but I understand where the rationale comes in, and this is the business side of it. It's reading stories about like James Bond, the new Bond, and one of the reasons they a lot of the fans wanted to go back to like the 1950s, 1960s, and do that kind of period piece Bond, which sounds great, sounds so much fun to do. But one of the main reasons they don't want to do it is because they can't put new cars in it, and that pays for budgeting, and that pays for,
Ah,
and it's like that's the kind of decisions that these studios make because they'll sacrifice story because, well, no, we can't because we can't put it in. We need to put more sponsors in there and do that. And look, I understand and I get sponsors. I get having to pay your bills. I get it, but it's still that same conversation of what comes first, the quality, or just trying to make money. And I think the quality, if you do it right, will get you that money.
yeah, and I agree completely, and I do think that you can be creative whilst making something creative, and there are products that were created in the 1950s and brands that are still popular today. I feel like there still could be like a match money-wise if you have like an old school Coca-Cola in it.
Yeah,
It's like people would probably
yeah.
buy Coke now because it's the same thing.
There's ways around it for sure,
Yeah.
but when you go, the origin of what we're talking about here with Sigourney Weaver joining the
Mhm.
Mandalorian and Grogu, and that movie, it's as I have mentioned a few times. To me, it's very similar to what's happening with Marvel, right? Deadpool and Wolverine, you knew was going to be a hit. You knew it was going to be a hit. Mandalorian and Grogu, even though I hate the title name, I understand the title name, but I hate it. It is called that to get people into the theater because they know that, as they will say, the average person will say, Baby Yoda is in it. That's what people are going to say. Baby Yoda is in it. And the people who don't understand that his name's Grogu, they're going to go, Baby Yoda is in it. I'm going to go see that movie with Baby Yoda. And it's going to do well. And kids are going to see it. It's going to come out during the summertime. It's going to do well. And especially if Favreau pulls it off, he's a good director, and it's a really good film. Oh, Star Wars is back. You're going to hear everybody saying it. But then, in the same way Deadpool and Wolverine delivered, how was Captain America Brave New World going to do? How's the next movie after Mandalorian and Grogu going to do? And what the hell is that movie? What is
Yeah.
what is it?
No idea.
No idea. And it's like, do you go because you haven't, it's telling that at D23 they show that movie or the clip of Mandalorian and Grogu, and in the same year a second movie's supposed to come out, yet they don't mention Ray. They brought her out last year, whatever. They don't mention her. They don't mention the director. Nothing for December of 2026. That's telling to me.
It's
I don't think that movie's happening in
You
that.
don't?
Now I think it's happening. I just don't think it's happening in that spot.
Okay.
Well,
Huh.
Roca on Monday said this. Roca said that he is and Snyder are pretty convinced that Kathleen Kennedy is going to leave after Mandalorian and Grogu because, as we've mentioned in the past, you get that hit, you walk off the court. But how many times, Steph, have you and I had that conversation?
50 at least.
Right, right, right. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah. So, you know, um, does she stick around? I mean, I think it would behoove her to say, I don't understand why she'd want to do this anymore.
I know.
You know what I mean? Like, she doesn't love it, and she can't love constantly being blamed for everything.
Right, and I'm sure she's obviously extremely intelligent. She has to have not only, like I don't think she's losing much by walking away now. It's not like she doesn't have many investments in Lucasfilm that will continue to be like helpful for her just money wise, and then still is Kathleen Kennedy. She can go do other things too.
Of course, but that's why I think the strategy for her makes sense to stick around for Mandalorian and Grogu because, as we
Yeah.
mentioned, it is the closest thing to a sure shot to make money that they have right now. It's the closest thing. So if you're her and you can then say whatever it is, going to Netflix or Amazon or going anywhere and saying, well, guess what I'm going to do? Guess what I've done? Yeah, sure, we didn't put a movie out since 2019, but I had Obi-Wan that got nominated for awards on streaming. I had Andor got nominated for streaming for Emmy awards also. And then guess what I did for movies? Rogue One, $1 billion. Episode 7 $1 billion. $8 billion. $9 billion. Rogue One, $1 billion. And Mandalorian Grogu, $1 billion. You do that, and even if they say, well, wait a minute, what about Solo and Indiana Jones? Yeah, I had two misses in all that. However, if you then say, Well, I'm going to stick around one more time. It's like a gambler that keeps going back to Vegas. He goes, well, I just won another $1 billion. I'm going to go and I'm going to try it again. And then you go and you put the Ray movie out or another movie that doesn't work. And then you're back to where you were. And it's like, oh, well, that one didn't do well. I got to stick around in this job, this thankless job where I'm just getting bombarded on Twitter every 5 minutes.
Just to end on a good note.
Right. And it's like, end now. Hit Mandalorian and Grogu, walk off the court. That's what I think. And I think, as I said, I think that maybe what I'm saying actually happens. Maybe Iger goes, okay, look, after Kathleen leaves, I'm bringing in a whole new team. Just don't promote within. Don't do that. They have people in that don't. I've said it, and I know how much of a Visions fan you are, and video game fan and books. Leave that team as they are. Leave them. They're doing fine. There's everything that they're putting out, the books, the animation, all that stuff. Leave them. They know what they're doing. TV and film. Let's find new people.
Yeah, at least the heads of the departments, I think.
Yeah.
Just shake it up a bit.
The main people who are making the decisions about creative, which directors are getting hired, which actors are getting hired, what stories we're telling. That team needs to change. It just needs to change.
Right, because it's not just one or two projects. It's even though there have been good projects, it's the overall consensus of Disney, the merge, and everything post the original trilogy hasn't been widely loved with a higher accuracy than it is the things that people don't like.
But it's the thing that I've always mentioned. Like when you see it on a tweet, and like, oh, well, Disney they don't know what they're doing, and it's like they might not know what they're doing as far as hiring the right people to run it. That I might agree with you, but you can't say that they don't have. Like they don't know. Disney will never let Star Wars be good. Well, then why did they let the last Alien Romulus be good? That was a good movie. That's Disney. No one says like, oh, Disney did a great job. They say Fede Alvarez did a great job. That's what nobody gives Disney the credit for. When the movies are good, they never give Disney the credit. Ever.
Yeah.
They never. Like Deadpool and Wolverine. Oh, Sean Levy. No one says Disney did it. Disney made it happen. Nobody says that. But if it stinks, they all say, oh, Disney ruined it. You got to point the finger at the people that are making the decisions. And it's like, and yes, everybody always says Kathleen Kennedy. She's not the only person. There's other people that are working with her, and there's other people there. Filoni's been head of creative a lot longer than we've been talking about. The announcement came out, but he's been in there for a long time. He's not doing it. It's not working.
Yeah.
And so we'll see. Now, before we get any further along, because we do have this Outlaw game I want to talk to Steph about, I wanted to tell you guys, as I was mentioned before, with sponsors, we get it. We understand. And it is good to have sponsors, and it is good to have sponsors that you believe in. And we have two that we believe in. I'm going to tell you both about Built, and I'm going to tell you about BetterHelp right now. Here, everybody has been there. You feel like you're just burning cash with rent. It is the worst. But here's the deal. Built Rewards has figured out a way to make rent more rewarding. You got to say goodbye to the money bonfire and hello to a renter's revolution with Built. Built. It's a breaking ground as a neighborhood rewards program that hooks you up with your points on your rent. Every month, pay your rent and watch the Built points roll in. Use points to jet off on a dream vacation, put your points toward a flight or hotel stay with 500 plus airlines and over 700,000 hotels and properties. You can also use your points to book fitness studio classes, redeem them towards a future rent payment. They're designed to meet your lifestyle. Pay rent hassle-free through the Built Rewards app. Your rent game just got a major upgrade. Built points have been consistently ranked the highest value point currency by the Points Guy and Bankrate. Earn points by paying rent right now when you go to joinbuilt.com/bigthing. That's joinbuilt, joinbilt.com/bigthing. Make sure to use our URL so they know that we sent you. You got to joinbuilt.com/bigthing to start earning points with your rent payments today. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. What is something that you would love to learn? I was thinking about this. As an adult, do we really make time to learn new things as often as you would want to? Or do you lose that in childhood? Kids are always learning. They're always growing. As a dad, I see it all of the time. But when you get older, you're so busy and thinking about other things that we kind of lose that curiosity. Therapy, it can help you. It helps you reconnect with that sense of wonder because your back to school era can come at any age. when you are talking to someone and you have a conversation and you realize about things that you have lost, it is crucial to be able to talk about that with somebody. So I can tell you from people in my family that have been talking to people from BetterHelp, there are things that have just woken up people to say, oh, yeah, I forgot about that. And even talking to Roxy, who talks about BetterHelp on the show all the time, that's exactly what happened to her. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's online, it's designed to be convenient, it's flexible, and it's suited to your schedule. You fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist. You switch therapists anytime, no additional charge. Rediscover your curiosity with BetterHelp. You got to visit betterhelp.com/bigthing today. You'll get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/bigthing. All right, thank you to our friends over at Built Rewards and, of course, BetterHelp. Thank you for understanding, commenting, letting us know that, hey, listen, we're gonna. I know that it helps the show. I know this is something that you believe in, so I'm checking it out. Links in the description. Please do so. All right, this Outlaws show, this Outlaws game, Steph. Here it is. I talked about this briefly yesterday. The Star Wars Outlaws reviews are in, and it seems to be mixed, but mostly positive. Mixed, mostly positive. Just saying that it looks solid. There's some stuff with the gameplay that's a little repetitive, and the story's okay, and other people say the story's really, really fun, really good. I haven't heard a lot about it so far from anybody that I know. As I mentioned yesterday, Steph, I think that for me, as we've been discussing, what I'm not going to ever do is, if I want to find out if a Star Wars property is good, there's certain places that I know that if I go and I follow somebody's thread, I can guess and say, well, I guarantee you they haven't even played it, they hate it, right? And then I can go to this over here and go, I bet you they haven't played it yet, but they love it, right? And it's like, I don't want to hear from either one of those people. I don't care.
Right.
I don't care about their opinion. The people that haven't played and said, like, oh, I hope it's good, but if it stinks, I'm gonna let you know it stinks. If it's great, I'm gonna tell you it's great. Those are the people that I want to hear from. There are some people that I respect very much that do that, and those are the people I'm going to be looking for.
Totally. Yeah, I think that I equally, well, I wouldn't say equally. I like the people who automatically hate everything less than I do the people who like everything, just because of the way my brain works. I'd rather optimism, but I don't like necessarily respect either of the opinions, and that's on the same
Yeah,
level.
right, because it's just like it's just predictable. It's like
Yeah, I just want to know.
yeah, like I mean, it's just predictable. It's like let me guess. I've done this. I've had this conversation with like Mike, and I'll text Mike, and I'll go, without looking, let me guess. That person loved it, and then I look, they loved it, and then I look at something else, and then I see it, and I'm like, that was not very good. I'm like, I don't know what they were watching. I respect the opinion, but I knew they were gonna love it because they love everything. And then
Right.
in the same way that I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna take your opinion serious. Let me guess, you hated it because, oh, here we go, it's the Disney machine. You hate it, and they hate it. So you can't. There's only and then each of those people have their audiences that they talk to that listen, and they should, and good for them. But I need to figure out by either playing it or hearing from people on in that middle that are going to say, look, this thing's worth getting. I'm just not excited for this game. But like I said, if I hear from people that I respect their opinions, then maybe I'll check it out. Are you going to get this game?
Yeah, it's so different with games because it's not like shows and movies. I will watch it before I look at the review, but video games differ because you're paying for it. So you really want to buy something that you think you might like. I think that I know Harry really wants to play it, so
Okay,
we'll
we'll
get
try it.
it
Okay, well, I'll
because it's
listen to you
two
then.
of us who are gonna try the game. Yeah,
I'll listen to you.
and we love Fallen Order.
Right.
So
And well, that's what I said earlier. The people who are making the games have been doing a good job, so maybe it's really
yeah,
good. Maybe and it took a little while for them to put this thing out. So, when do you get it? You going to get it this Friday when it comes out?
yeah, we'll probably do like a
All
little
right.
weekend
Well,
game.
text me when you play it after a little bit and let me know
Okay.
if it's worth it. And if it's not, then I'm not gonna bother.
Yeah.
All right. So there you go. So I ask you guys, what do you think? Are you gonna get this game? Do you think it's gonna be any good? What say you? All right. Next topic. Steph, did you see Borderlands?
No, I haven't yet.
Well, you say that like you're missing out on something. The movie,
Well, because it looks cool.
sure,
It does.
sure, but it's not.
And I like all the
The actors are
actors, but
phenomenal.
I've heard, yeah.
It's well. Let me tell you this. When it came out,
Okay, tell me.
it came out in the theater what, like 2 weeks ago, right?
Right.
Well, it's hitting digital this Friday.
Yikes.
3 weeks after its theatrical release. 3 weeks.
That's
So
like Madam Web.
I think that it had I think Madam Web had a longer run. Lionsgate Borderlands did not have a successful box office run, to put it mildly, and the movie is now set to hit PVOD just 3 weeks after it hit theaters. Borderlands is coming home less than a month after it was released in theaters. Lionsgate has announced that the star-studded but critically panned video game adaptation will be available to purchase on premium video on demand and premium electronic sell-through from this Friday, August 30th. We didn't expect the movie to stay in theaters for too much longer. After a disastrous stint at the box office, it grossed just over $24 million with an estimated $120 million budget. But its home release is happening quite sooner than analysts predicted. There's always a slim chance that the movie will find a new lease on life with digital and Blu-ray, but between the dismal box office returns and the awful reviews, 10% on Rotten Tomatoes, it's probably,
Whoa.
yeah, it's bad. Probably safe to assume that this franchise is dead in the water. Kate Blanchett, Jamie Lee Curtis, Kevin Hart, Ariana Greenblatt. I mean, the list goes on and on. Jack Black. It's an absolute star-studded cast. And what's his name? Eli Roth directing, and yeah, it's just looks like a real stinker. The big screen take was directed by Eli Roth, developed at Lionsgate based off a script from Chernobyl writer Craig Mazin. I don't know what happened. I don't know. I'm trying to actually organize, because I'm going to start doing the reactions to films, and I think Borderlands will be one of the ones that we do, and I think I'm going to do it with Matt Serra.
Oh, really?
It's going to be hilarious
That's funny.
to have him.
Yeah, I think it was one of those movies that I kept hearing there was a ton of, but I didn't hear necessarily issues, but there was a lot of silence and space in between the announcement.
Yeah.
And then it felt like there wasn't like a cohesive rollout. And oftentimes when that happens, it means that there's probably some behind the scenes things happening. And that's why, because it really, for a movie to be great, every single piece of it has to show up.
Yeah, and it was promoted pretty heavily at like Comic-Con. That's where I saw all the interviews and all that, and I was like, oh, maybe it's going to be pretty good. And then every review was just between that and The Crow. Those are the two movies and that one bombed. Also, that movie didn't even make.
I know.
It didn't even make like I think it made like $4.4 million opening weekend. Like, that's brutal. That's another one that just in and out like diarrhea.
Right.
That's
I know,
bad.
it's such a bummer because I think that The Crow never really had a chance because of just the gravity of the original
Mm-hmm.
and how well received it was, but also just the entire backstory of it being one of the craziest Hollywood stories ever.
Yeah.
And then a lot of people already counted it out and were like, we don't need this. Why would you do that? The movie was great. This doesn't make sense. And then, yeah, so it just hasn't gotten even the initial reception it needed to have a life.
Yeah, there's a lot I think that went wrong with that movie
Yeah.
overall. I don't think the director was the right choice either.
Did you see it
No, I missed
yet?
it.
Okay.
I was in Florida. I was with my family, and I think I told the story on Monday. I was gonna go see it. I was helping my dad out with some stuff, and I was like, you know what, I'll go see it. I'll do it out of the theater reaction. And then my brother was like, hey, mom's staying with me in town. Do you want to get dinner? And I was like, I'd rather do that. So I
I
went.
feel that.
Yeah, so I went to dinner with my brother, my sister-in-law, and my mother, and then had a really nice grouper in this place that's like known for their grouper. It was really good, and I don't regret it at all. And I'll probably do a movie reaction for that one too, and I'll probably do it with Matt Serra also with that one, because I have some new people coming in. I got Matt Serra. I have three of my childhood friends, my friend Samantha, my friend Alexandra, and my friend Tina, who are going to be doing movie reactions with me, and then Sadie's going to do some too.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah. So, oh, I got to get you on this discussion. So, Roka and I have been beefing on Mondays.
Hell yeah.
We've been beefing.
You know I love the beef.
I know you do. So I'm gonna tell you. We got to get your opinion on this, Steph. All right,
Okay.
hold on a second. So now you're part of this newer generation, so I could potentially see you going the Roka route.
All right.
I'm gonna give you two people. Okay, you ready?
Okay.
Seeing what I'm seeing?
Oh, that they look alike?
Hell no. In their prime. Florence Pugh in her prime. Julia Roberts in her prime. Roka has a major crush on Florence Pugh, and you know that I basically married Julia Roberts. So
Right, you did. Sadie is as close as it gets.
yeah,
Okay, this is interesting. They're totally different.
100%.
So it's a hard discussion to have. I think Florence Pugh is cooler looking, but I think Julia Roberts is like a
Smoke show is what you're looking for,
she's a timeless beauty.
and a movie star.
And yes, and Florence Pugh is like
Girl
Gen
next door.
Z icon.
Girl next door.
She is brat.
Yeah. So nothing but respect for Florence Pugh, but
Right. They're
not
completely different.
in the same league. Not in the same league. And I can't even fathom the amount of support Roka's gotten in this conversation.
That's hysterical. I don't think that there's any celebrity. I don't want to say any. The celebrities now don't compare, not in terms of talent,
I know what
but
you're
in
saying.
terms of just like the way we
Star
view
power,
them.
man. Star power. Yes.
It's completely different.
Completely different. It's movie star. It's like there are not a lot of movie stars. There are no movie stars really. A movie star to me is, I think Margot Robbie's probably the closest one that we got right now.
Right.
Margot Robbie's
I know.
Closest.
I was in Barnes and Noble, and I went to the coffee table book section, and they had an insanely massive Barbie book, and it's just like 200 pages of Margot Robbie in Barbie looks, and I just was like, this is the role of a lifetime.
Yeah. She to me is movie star. That's
Oh yeah.
And movie star in the way where she's movie star / actor. She can do that kind of role, but she can also, I mean, I didn't necessarily like Babylon, but I thought she was incredible in that film. Did you see that movie?
I saw the first like 30 minutes,
she's great in it. She's great.
She is great, and it's so fun to watch. It just the story wasn't compelling me, and it's one of those that I'll end up watching. It's not like it was offensive.
Doesn't get any better.
It
doesn't get better. I loved the first half an hour. I thought it was so crazy and cuckoo could chew, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna love this movie, and then it just goes in a really bizarre direction that I wanted to love more than I did. But yeah, I think she's a movie star for sure. There are people that are very talented, but movie star to me is also, you're like, oh, that person's going to be in a movie, and I'm probably going to check it out. What's it about? I don't care. I'm going to go see it because so-and-so's in it.
Right.
And I think that's what she carries. And a lot of it, I mean, Will Smith used to carry that back in the day. Tom Cruise used to carry that back in the day, right? The Top Gun guy. You ever heard of that guy?
Yeah. I like once or twice.
So yeah. But there are other things, other properties that people are going to the theater for, and it's still Marvel, man. And we got some Marvel, not theater news, but TV news. Vision. Now, this is another rumor. The Vision series may see Elizabeth Olsen playing a different Marvel character, with it looking increasingly like Elizabeth Olsen will join Paul Bettany in Vision. A new rumor said who the actress might play. Marvel Studios, the series is taking shape. So instead of returning as Scarlet Witch after the events of Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness, there are rumblings that she's going to be playing Virginia Vision instead. The hell that is. The Cosmic Circus, Alex Perez, dropped a few hints, and we've also heard this might be the plan. Stands to reason that Vision plans to resurrect his father, Ultron, explaining James Spader's recently announced return. In terms of Marvel's Endgame, we'd imagine that Scarlet Witch, Vision, Speed, and Wiccan will eventually reunite on screen. Whether this will happen in time for the next Avengers movie is hard to say, as this epic story could continue in the MCU's next saga. For now, the next chapter is going to play out in Agatha All Along, In Tom King's critically acclaimed Vision series, the title character created a synthesized family for himself, including his wife Virginia. His personality was modeled on the Scarlet Witch's brainwaves, a copy of which Wanda had gifted him years earlier. A combination of his and Virginia's brainwaves was what led to the creation of their twins, Finn and Vivian. When the Grim Reaper attacked, the kids were injured and unhinged. Virginia flew into a rage, beat the villain to death, and then buried him into the back garden. Virginia became increasingly unhunted as time passed and eventually took her own life. While elements of this were used in WandaVision, it seems like we're going to see Vision attempt to create his family in a series of dark parallel of sorts to Wanda's ex-created sitcom fantasy. Yada, yada, yada. Okay, so but the first time I heard this story, well, when I saw the headline of this story, I'm like, what is Marvel doing? They're just bringing back all their, famed actors and giving them different roles. This makes sense that it kind of plays into where, okay, yeah, well, she's still just a different version of his wife, but kind of looks like her and all that, and that can make sense. The only thing, though, is when I hear this synopsis, and it's could be all rumor, what's different than This just sounds like Vision's version of WandaVision.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, I don't... it sounds like a similar... I'm worried about their shows in general, though.
Yeah,
I'm going to watch them, but I just think the pitches of each of them, I'm a little bit... It makes me ask, like, oh, what was the point? Is this necessary?
Right. And that seems to be a lot of it. And I think a lot of this stuff got greenlit before they kind of had a rehaul. And I think that this is where you have, Agatha, which was greenlit during that time. And I think Agatha is going to serve as a Halloween thing to watch. I don't think it's going to play into the greater MCU.
Like Werewolf.
Kind of. Yeah.
By Night.
But I think Werewolf by Night was supposed to be part of the new monster phase. And I really like Werewolf by Night, by the way.
Me too.
It's really good. But yeah, I think so. Where it's kind of like almost like a throwaway now, in the same way that I think that this not throwaway when it comes to like holiday. You just watch it for the holiday season. It's fun to watch, but it doesn't continue on the story. It just stands by itself. And maybe that's what WandaVision's going to do. I forget where you stand with WandaVision. Are you hyped for WandaVision, or do you not really care?
I really loved WandaVision.
Not WandaVision. I'm sorry. Agatha is what I meant.
Agatha. I am a little concerned. I liked the character Agatha. I love the actress. I think that she has a greater story to be told, so I can understand that. But then when we got to the episode in WandaVision where we were with the witches doing kind of that seance, it didn't look great to me.
Right.
And kind of took me out of it. Like the witch makeup was a little bit it felt like I was at a haunted hayride.
It's goofy.
Yeah. And so thinking about an entire season of that is, I don't know what that will look like, but I do think that I have hope for it. Like Aubrey Plaza's in it now, right?
Right. So
which is like so fun. So if they're going more of that direction and just kind of digging into that, I could see it working for me.
Yeah, I mean, it could be. I also wonder how many episodes it is. I don't really need it.
Right.
I really don't need it to be more than 5 episodes, maybe 6. Like if it's longer than, I'm going to check and see how many episodes. How many episodes is Agatha? 9 episodes. Why? Why does it need to be 9?
That's a lot, yeah.
At 40 minutes apiece, which I don't know. I mean, look, it's coming out soon. You and I could very well say, look, we watched this thing and maybe it deserved 9 episodes. Maybe it could have done 12, but I don't know.
Yeah, it would have been cool if it was like 4 episodes, and then I'm like, oh, okay,
Right.
It's like a little movie.
Yeah.
But that seems, I don't know. I'm a little bit concerned over that show.
That's where the money goes. It's the same thing. Like, I don't know. Jumping back to like Acolyte, right? Why not just make that 4 or 5 episodes of or an hour-long show instead of 9 episodes, whatever it was. I think it was 8 episodes at 35, 36 minutes apiece. Why? And instead of doing a silly throwaway episode of, let's just do the same episode again. Just shorten the episode and make longer episodes.
Yeah.
I don't understand who's making decisions. I really just don't. I just don't. And I'm both on all this stuff. on all this stuff. It's crazy.
And yeah, it's like they're in this like weird place of needing to just constantly make more and more money.
Yeah, and it's like I
But
get it, it's a business. That's part of it, but what are you sacrificing in order to do that?
mhm.
Last story that I want to bring up. Okay, this was something I saw that I had to bring up. I'm a big Bob Dylan fan. I don't know if you are, Steph.
I like Bob Dylan.
Yeah, Stephanie's gonna be on that. Got a shot on the head. What it doing? Hey now, where's Mike yelling at the clouds? So
That's on cue.
yeah, I'm on cue. So I think that the Bob Dylan movie, especially James Mangold directing this thing, this trailer's looked fantastic. I'm a little bummed though, Steph.
Why?
Well, because they said that there's going to be some reshoots, but not in the typical kind of reshoot fashion. That the reason why is like it tested and didn't test too great, and apparently focused too much on his relationship and not enough on the music, and that it's too long. It's like 240, and it's the type of thing you're like, oh, I really wanted that to be great. And Mangold needs a hit right now. He's coming off Indiana Jones. You know, he needs, and I love Mangold. I want to see Mangold have a hit, and you're gonna get me. I'm getting in the theater to see Bob Dylan. I'm there, but if it's intriguing enough to spend it with a relationship, I don't care. But if it's dull and it's long, you're gonna lose me. But did you see this trailer and do you care? Timothy Chalamet looks great, by the way.
I actually didn't see the trailer. I saw the
Okay.
pictures. Timothy Chalamet does look really, really good in the role.
Yeah.
That's always the thing about when you're doing these types of movies, especially with icons. I think
Mm-hmm.
it's hard to please everyone, but and they either go too hard in relationships or addictions and
Right.
downfalls,
Right.
or just the music. So I wonder what the original script's focus was, and maybe they're having problems with the people doing test screenings and disinterested in certain portions.
Right. It does seem like the original script, if you believe in these reports, the original script is that it was really focused on the relationship and not the actual, just his rise to fame and all that. And I don't know. I mean, I wonder my fingers are crossed for it. I just read that report and I was like, oh, okay. I was so hyped on it because that trailer was so good, and I'm not, for some reason, and I might be wrong, but I'm not blaming him for Indiana Jones. I'm just, and maybe it's just because I have no faith in the Lucasfilm regime, that maybe that's why I place the blame on them. But you got to give them some of the blame, I'm sure. But I'm rooting for it. I'm rooting for the movie.
Yeah, I know that one's hard but I'm not. I'm always rooting for Mangold because he is great,
Yeah.
and it's no one has a perfect record in the industry, so I don't really even care about that. I think
Right.
it's so hard when you're doing like a massive budget film,
Right.
and it's a franchise,
Right.
and you're bringing back
A beloved
Harrison.
character. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just there's so many factors in that movie where I'm like, whatever. And it wasn't horrible. It was just way too long, and it had some decisions we didn't agree with money
Yeah.
wise.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I will be curious to see. It'll be fun to see from my perspective because I'm not like such a diehard Bob Dylan fan, so I probably will be easier to please
Yeah.
in the story realm of this. So it's really for the fans, I guess.
Well, we'll see. It's coming out. Very curious what you guys think. Put your comments in there. Do you think this is something to be worried about? Did you care? Do you not care at all? Let us know. Thanks for joining us here today. I want to thank Steph Sabra for being on the show. Steph, where can they find you?
At the World Girls, we're dropping in IRL today and then doing a Patreon stream after.
Perfect. Look, here's the other thing. I've told you guys on both Instagram. I've told you on this community page. The name of this show will be changing in September. It is no longer going to be called The Big Thing. It's just going to be simply called The Kristian Harloff Show. So be on the lookout for some new graphics, a couple changes here and there. Still going to be going on every day, Monday through Fridays, the show as you know it. But we're just going to have some tweaks, a couple more announcements that are going to be coming up pretty soon about that. We got the movie reactions coming up pretty soon. I got an out of the theater reaction of Beetlejuice coming up next week. So stick with us. We got a lot coming on. Thanks for Steph for being here. We'll see you later. Mike should be back next week. All right.